Learning environment. The learning environment consists of the physical environment as well as the psychological atmosphere or the social emotional climate of the classroom, which is mainly a product of the interaction and the relationship between the teacher and the students in the classroom. The physical environment. The physical environment of your classroom is a lot like your social media profile page. It draws people into your classroom and makes them want to stay and be in your classroom. The physical environment is also how the classroom is structured, from strategically placing desks, students, and decorations to the other outside elements that are brought into the classroom to produce a welcoming environment that is conducive to learning. The physical environment should reflect who you are as a teacher and what your expectations are. Students who have emotional or behavioral disorders often have a hard time concentrating or staying on tasks for a long period of time. They act out, disturb others, and lack self monitoring and social skills. These issues can obviously make the classroom environment a very challenging place to learn and teach. If we take steps to better prepare the physical environment of our classroom, not only will all students benefit and be more successful, but those who suffer from emotional and behavior disorders. Seating arrangement. There are three types of seating charts: alphabetical, student choice, and teacher placed. The best choices are usually alphabetical or teacher placed. Leaving things to chance with a student choice seating arrangement is often asking for trouble. Friends that like to talk can be a big distraction to the classroom and your teaching. If you're getting a new group of kids, it might be beneficial, however, to allow a student choice arrangement for the first couple of days to see who sits where and who talks to who. It can give you great insight into where you should place students when you create your seating chart. I usually use a student choice seating chart at the beginning of each semester, with the caveat that if they are able to stay on task, then they will be able to stay where they are. But if they act up or cause a distraction to themselves or to their peers, then they will be moved. For the most part, it works, and I usually don't have any trouble. The physical space or layout can be intentionally used to support students with emotional behavior needs by placing students away from distractions, allowing students to remove themselves to a private space for personal regrouping. The seating is arranged for proximity control and make sure the teacher has easy visual access to the students at all time. The teacher must be physically accessible to the student, and you can change the seating arrangement and proximity to peers when necessary. Seating arrangements are one of the best preventative measures a teacher can use. If you need to keep a close eye on a student, place them in front of the room. The front corners are the best place to place a student who may disrupt the class. If the student's behavior causes him or her to have severe blow-ups that might place others in danger, placement towards the back of the room may be better. The following are some examples of seating arrangements and the pros and cons of each one. In my school, we have movable furniture that the teachers can use to arrange their classrooms into the various arrangements to fit what they are doing in their classrooms. This allows students to sit in a variety of seating arrangements, and it also encourages collaboration among students. Class size. Research shows that students in smaller classes perform better in all subjects and on all assessments when compared to their peers in larger classes. Students who have smaller classes in early elementary grades continue to benefit from this, even if they are in larger classes in upper elementary or middle school. Benefits of small classes are students talk and participate more. They're more likely to interact with the teacher rather than listen passively during class. Students have better relationships with their teachers and peers. Students display less disruptive behaviors. Teachers spend less time on discipline, leaving more time for instruction. Teachers can diagnose and track student learning and differentiate instruction in response to student needs. And students spend less time off task or disengaged from their work of the class. Least restrictive environment. General education teachers will often find students with behavioral and emotional disorders in their very own classrooms. This is because the student has behaviors that interfere with his or her learning, and the Individuals with Disabilities Education Act says that they are entitled to participate in a general education classroom. With positive interventions to help them function, the least restrictive environment may be a regular classroom. Least restrictive environment means that school districts are required to educate students with disabilities in general education classrooms with their non-disabled peers to the maximum extent appropriate. Effective teachers. There are 5 things that make up effective instruction. 1. Teacher clarity, explicit explanation of what students will learn, why, and how they will know they are successful. In my classroom, I use the students will be able to statement when introducing a new chapter or unit to help the students understand what they will be learning in this chapter or unit. Classroom discussion. Entire class discussions allow students to learn from their peers as well as gives teachers time to observe and informally assess. 3. Feedback. Individual and class feedback allows students to know if they are making progress. 4. Formative assessment. Spending the same amount of time on formative assessments as well as summative assessments allows teachers to inform their instruction and help guide what they're teaching the kids and how they're teaching the kids. And last, metacognitive strategies. Teachers and students should set goals and make a plan to reach them and self-reflect on those results. Types of effective instruction. Students with emotional and behavior disorders have a difficult time controlling their behavior in the classroom. They lack impulse control and the emotional balance needed to interact with other students effectively. As a teacher, this can be very challenging in the classroom. The following are a few strategies teachers can use that are effective for those students with emotional behavior disorders. 1. Keep class rules simple and clear. ED students will struggle with a long list of rules and demands on them, so it's good to have 3 to 5 main rules. Start from the first day of class and make sure you have simple and clear teaching activities. Number 2, reward positive behaviors. Sometimes you may need to discipline a student for negative behavior, but rewarding positive behavior can be far more effective in the long run. More effective than punishment, and you celebrate the student's successes. 3. Allow for mini breaks. Students with ED lack emotional behavior and maturity to remain focused and on task for long periods. Build in short rest periods and allow time to finish assignments and allow movement. Number 4, fair treatment to all. ED students may not respond very well to situations that appear unfair to them. This will then lead to them showing their negative emotions and acting out behaviors. Don't bend your established rules for any student and encourage expected consequences for everything with every student. Number 5, use the motivational strategies. Oftentimes, it's hard to find motivation in some students with emotional and behavior disorders. To avoid disruptive or off-task behaviors, take some extra steps to help motivate these students. You can offer incentives and celebrate their hard work and good efforts when they do well. It's always good to have incentives for academic success, large or small. Celebrate the hard work and again celebrate their successes and praise their efforts consistently. Transitions. Transition refers to that time period that exists between times allocated for learning activities. Transition time is the time it takes to change from one activity to another. Some examples of classroom transitions are ending the class period and moving into cleanup time, lining up to go to a different class or activity, returning from lunch, another activity or another class, and settling down before the next activity, changing groups or activities, and waiting for others to complete the assignment at the end of the class. Some tips for efficient and effective transitions when teaching students with ED. Make sure you have a well-planned and taught transition procedures. Make sure you have clear expectations of students' behavior during transitions. Prepare for student readiness to end a current activity and begin a new one. The teacher readiness for the next activity. Make sure you are ready. Transitions that are orderly, efficient, and systematic and require little teacher direction. There is minimal prompting from the teacher. Students know their responsibilities, don't have to ask questions about what to do, and students are never idle while waiting for the teacher. Transition periods can also be a time where we lose some of our students with behavioral or emotional needs. When they are focused on one thing, but then it's time to transition into something else, it may take us a while to get them back on the right track and going again. That's why it's important to have these transition periods well planned out and taught from the beginning of the class. Types of effective communication. Good communication skills are the key to success for almost anything. You can never over communicate with students, parents, and colleagues. Communication with students. There are several forms of communication with students, including verbal, nonverbal, and the use of media. Some things to remember when communicating with students. Get students interested in what you have to say and do it respectfully. Connect to a student interest and listen intently when it is their turn to speak. You should show and model respect to get it back. Make sure the goal or purpose of what you are saying is clear. Will they need this information for an activity later? Are these directions they need to follow? Communicate the information in different ways. Not only will this help differentiate for different learning styles, but it can enhance what you want to say. Media is a great way to do this. Use smooth transitions between topics so as not to lose students. Check for understanding. Have students quickly summarize or ask questions to clarify. This can also include watching body language or asking students if the forms of communication you used help them stay focused and understand. In order to provide the proper support for students, there needs to be effective communication between the special education and regular education staff, effective communication between special education staff and parents, and also effective communication with other agencies that work with the student. Communicating with parents can be a difficult thing at times, but there are more things than that you can do to make sure that that is easier. Make sure all parents know there are boundaries to communicating with you. They need to know when your meeting hours are and that they need to schedule with you beforehand. They also need to know what other avenues of communication they have and how to reach those. Have someone else present for your meetings or CC them on emails if necessary. Make sure you communicate positive things about students as often as negative. Communication with colleagues is another major need in teaching. Collaboration allows for planning of effective instruction, alignment of assessments, and analyzation of data. In order to communicate with colleagues and teaching partners, professional learning communities are established. These collaborative groups focus on what you want students to know, how will they will learn it, or how you will teach it, how will you know when they have learned it, what you will do when students fail to learn it or have learned it and need enrichment. Along with having good communication with other teachers and parents, teachers should also communicate with their students in an effective manner. This means we should be good listeners, pay attention to nonverbal cues from our students, and it is important to not become stressed or angry when conflict may occur. Students should also feel comfortable to come to their teachers when something is wrong or bothering them.